Hello and welcome everyone. Thank you for coming. Today's webinar is brought to you by MCSC Women's Business Center serving SLO, Kern, and Monterey counties, as well as the women's, not the Wesleys, I'll just skip that part. We offer low and no cost assistance and training to budding entrepreneurs and small businesses. We have consultants who are professionals in social media, e-commerce, business plans, licensing, cash flow analysis, and recovery strategies. Our contact information is on the screen, and I will put it in the chat box shortly. I would like to thank Mary Verdon, Ashley Akers, and Lisa Campolmi from Verdon Marketing for presenting today. Mary is the President and Chief Strategy Officer and leads the Verdon team with a vision for growth, a care for team members, and a gusto for giving back. She has more than 29 years of marketing experience. She was awarded the Stevie Award for Women in Business. She was the PRSA Professional of the Year. Ashley is a partner and VP of Client Services. She has more than 10 years marketing experience and is a strategic thinker in charge of keeping clients happy. Her passion comes from creating happiness and joy in clients and customers. Lisa is the media and research strategist at Verdon Marketing. She has 18 years experience in broadcast and print media, sales, and management. Her passion is understanding how people consume media and using her knowledge to help clients implement strategies to get the right message to the right customer at the right time. These three ladies are driven by passion to create great marketing campaigns, and we are delighted to have them presenting today. They've created a marketing worksheet for you, which you should all have. I emailed it to you yesterday. I will put it in the chat box in a little bit for you guys, for those of you that didn't get it. So before we get started, I'd like to cover a few basic housekeeping items. We will be taking questions in the chat box. You can type them in whenever you think about them, and we will address them when it's appropriate in the presentation. Please limit your distractions and mute your phone. This webinar is being recorded, and a link will be provided to you. Once the recording is processed, I'll send that to you by email. So understanding how to reach your audience is key in marketing. So in that vein, I would like to launch a 30-second poll. So let me get that going. Alrighty, if you could take 30 seconds to answer that, that would be great. All right. Thank you so much. Looks like 43% of you responded from an email. Let me make sure I've got my recording going again. All right. So without further ado, I would like to hand you over to Mary. Thank you, Mary.
All right, thank you, Barbara. And let me see if I can get my technology to work the way I want it to and share this presentation here. All right, can I get a thumbs up? Are we good? Excellent, thank you. Well, thank you so much for having us with you today. We're really excited about this topic because we are passionate about marketing. And we had entitled the presentation, Pump Up Your Q4 Marketing, How to Create a Successful Marketing Strategy to Close Out a Year of Uncertainty and Change. Because we certainly have had that this year. And our goal today is really to help all of you, to maybe give you some resources that you can use to either create your campaign or maybe add to the efforts that you already have underway for the end of the year so you can end successfully. So you already heard about the three of us. I'll just tell you really quickly. I founded Verdon Marketing in 2003. We are a women-owned small business whose purpose is to do our part to make the world better. We're a full-service agency of 15 people who work with a variety of different, both public and private clients, from tourism to nonprofits and healthcare to business. We believe in transparency and integrity-based marketing, and those are some of the things that set us apart. So our agenda today, we will go through some marketing trends. We'll talk about messages during COVID specifically, foundations of effective marketing, Q4 campaign to-dos, We have time set aside for questions, but as Barbara said, we're happy to take questions throughout the presentation when we're able. And then we'd like to leave you with some resources that we hope will help in moving you forward on your next steps. So let's talk about marketing trends. There's really been, for the last several years, a move from traditional to digital. And in the last, well, in life and in marketing, we're after convenience, right? So we want to be able to shop wherever we are at whatever time. So at 2 in the morning, if I feel like I need to buy something from some online store, I can go do that. And then it's easy because I can find anything. I can find information, I can find products, I can research, I can read. And then today with COVID and more people staying home, the audience and effectiveness of digital has become even greater. Mass marketing has become what we call mass customization. The first 100 years of advertising was really about mass media. Every community had a daily newspaper, maybe 3 network television stations, and a handful of radio stations. And advertising on one or a few of these outlets would basically reach the majority of your audience, no matter who that audience was or how diverse they were. It didn't matter what their age, gender, income, geography, race, education, or their interests were. You could find them all through those main media channels. But today, and I really think a lot of this comes from social media and just having so much content out in the world, people just want what they want. Everybody is really busy and they tend to be more impatient and they don't want to waste time wading through information to find what they're looking for. They only want what pertains to them, and that is in their news feeds. It's what's served to them online in terms of advertising and what emails that they get. So I saw in the poll that the email was really a high return on people signing up for this webinar. So obviously Mission Community Services is doing a great job getting emails out to people who care about this content. I think that the challenge for the advertiser right now is really figuring out a way to speak efficiently on a one-on-one basis to a large audience and really meeting those people where they are. And if you don't, you could be wasting your efforts and your money. So you need to know your audience. Because of this need to customize and speak to people in a way that makes them feel like your content is relevant to them as an individual, it's important to go beyond the traditional target audiences, like I was saying before. For example, 20 years ago, we might serve ads. If we had something going on at our store, we might send some ads out through radio. And when we would select that radio station, we'd say, we're targeting women 25 to 54. And it would be that broad of an audience. And we certainly know that a woman who is 25 is going to be very different than a woman who is 54. And so talking to them the same way doesn't really work anymore. Learning about your target audience's lifestyles, what their pain points are, what's important to them will make your messages more likely to catch their attention and stick. So Ashley actually is going to be talking a little bit more about what we call personas in a little bit. And then the last bullet I have here is the importance of storytelling. With so many messages bombarding everyone every day, telling your customers about the features of your product or service isn't really the best way to get your information across. Rather than talking at them, engage them in a story that captures their interests and helps them relate to your brand, create a relationship with them, and make them care. Traditionally in marketing, we've talked about for years the 4 Ps, and that's product, price, place, and promotion. And if you study marketing at all, they'll say these are the things you need to focus on. But in today's world, we're really much more consumer focused with our marketing. And so the 4 Ps have become the 4 Cs. So product is now consumer wants and needs. Price is now the consumer's cost. Place is convenience to buy, and promotion is communication. So you can see it's really changed from me telling you to you asking from me, and that two-way conversation. So in addition to taking into consideration these trends, there's some specific message points that are important to remember that relate to today's world. And this would be at any time, right? There are always going to be certain things going on in the world, and you need to be relevant to what's happening and not blind to things going on around you. But with COVID, there are some certain messages that are important to include in your campaign. So the first one is safety. Regardless of the type of business you have, your restaurant, retail, personal or professional services, the number one concern overall for many people right now is safety. This virus is scary, and there's an anxiety about exposure and how careful we need to be. Taking necessary precautions and even going beyond what is required is appreciated. Be sure to tell your customers what you're doing. Safety should be a message woven into any campaign you create. Next is convenience and ease of doing business with you. Things aren't easy right now, so in tandem with safety, convenience is being sought after by consumers, whether that's offering online shopping, curbside service, delivery, or other ways that you can make it easy to do business with you. You'll increase the likelihood your customer is going to venture out. And some of just my own experience, some of the businesses that have changed the way they're doing business to make it more convenient, I'm really hoping they keep those things after we're through all this pandemic, because they are things that are making it more enjoyable and more efficient to work with them. Service and value. So going online is easy, right? So shopping on big e-commerce sites is easy. So show them how you offer better service at a higher value to your customers. Show them that you appreciate them. That's going to make that relationship and make them more loyal to you. And then the last thing on this slide is shop local. A lot of people are resonating with that idea of being in this together. Hashtags, memes, other messaging like that talks about people helping people, caring about others, and supporting each other as we navigate the pandemic. So showing that you're supporting local businesses helps friends, neighbors, and the local economy, and is a great message to include. Many of the local cities and chambers of commerce have campaigns to encourage residents to shop local. So be sure you're aware of those efforts and tie into them whenever you can, and be sure you yourself are also shopping local and talk about it. So we want to show you a couple examples that we have from some of our clients. So the first one, this is Old Juan's Cantina, it's a Mexican restaurant in South County. And these are a couple of Facebook posts I just wanted to use to illustrate what we're talking about. So the first one on the left says, "What are your plans for this beautiful weekend? Come join us in our new outdoor dining area for a refreshing margarita and your favorite Mexican meal. We're here for you." And then we have photos of the outdoor area that they built specifically to be able to expand their dining and make the parking lot not look like a parking lot. And on this one, you can see we've reached almost 9,500 people. We did boost this post on Facebook, so we paid $10 over 2 days, and we got over 9,500 people paying attention to it. We had 271 reactions, 58 comments, and 32 shares. So people are really engaging with this. And if you look through the comments, there are things like, thank you so much for creating this special space. It didn't feel like I was in a parking lot. We are so excited to go out and eat again. I mean, they were really positive comments. And then the one on the right says, "These last 3 months have been incredibly challenging for everyone in our community. Our team has risen to this challenge at every turn, and today they earned us this award of excellence after a surprise health and safety inspection, which included compliance with additional COVID-related requirements." So, of course, restaurants always get surprise inspections a couple of times a year, but this had additional things that they were looking at, and then they got this award. So we're like, well, let's tell people we got this, because this is now kind of on the border of public relations. This is a third party saying, hey, these guys are doing a really good job at keeping their customers safe. And on this one, we did not boost it, but you can see we had 217 reactions, 23 comments, and 15 shares. So again, just a ton of engagement on that. So this next, I'm going to show you a quick video. We're working with the City of San Luis Obispo, and this is a video we produced to run for them about shopping local.
You've always supported our community.
And now it's time for us to support you.
With precautions in place, we're ready to welcome you safely.
So grab a seat and dine outside, or shop around at your favorite stores.
We're ready.
Please wear a mask and practice social distancing.
Because we can't wait to see you again.
Thank you for shopping, eating, and supporting local.
It means the world to us.
So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Ashley.
Thank you, Mary. It's always so nice to see that video and all the work that the different cities are doing to really encourage people to come and enjoy what we have to offer as a community. And so supporting local, I know it really speaks to San Luis Obispo County and a lot of people personally. So it always feels good to watch that video. So I'm going to jump into foundations of effective marketing. And so really, before you dive into a Q4 campaign, it's so important to understand these key fundamentals so you can clarify what makes you special, what differentiates your business, your organization, your company from your competitors. And really, what are those key messages that are going to speak to the different audiences that look for your product or service? And we actually have a great tool that we use. It's called a brand map, and it allows us to identify those key components of an organization so we can distill it down to a really strong brand positioning statement, which really becomes the internal communication piece. So there's consistency with anybody within our organization when they speak to what we have to offer. So we look at those brand attributes. We start at the top there in that internal viewpoint. Brand attributes, really all about defining the unique characteristics of the organization. We move into functional benefits. So from those attributes, what's the function that it has to our consumer? What does that look like for a brand? And then lastly, we know people buy and engage with brands by emotion. So we need to understand, what emotions do people feel when they interact with us? What do we want them to feel when they open up a piece of material that we wrote or they check out our website? How does that relate to them personally so that we can engage with them? We take that information and distill that down to that strong positioning statement, which again, it's an internal statement, but it's really specific to how you do business. What, based off your competitor set, these are the services and your key differentiators that make you different. And that's something that you want to keep when it comes to creating key messaging for all your different channels. And then lastly, look at brand reputation. If you've been in the community for a long period of time, what is the sentiment around your business? And then what's your brand promise? What do you hang your hat on every single day? And what can you promise your consumers? And then that external communication is really, what do they see outward facing? So that's really all your own channels, your social media, email marketing, your brand and identity, website, components like that, channels like that. And so really having all of those as part of your brand map to get a real clear understanding is fundamental before you get started on a Q4 campaign. So with that, that's really where you identify those points of differentiation, what sets you apart, what makes you different. And then from there, it's all about determining your key audiences. As Mary mentioned, we need to make sure that we're speaking to people, customizing that content to what makes sense and what's meaningful for them. And so what does that look like and how do we do that? We're going to show you a few examples here, but really the core component of that is developing personas. We've been doing this for a long time, and for years and years and years, it was about demographics. But what we've realized, it's so much more than that. It's behavior. It's what are the pain points for me as a mother with 2 kids working from home? How are brands going to speak to me compared to, my mother who is working, but, close to retirement and going to be, at home? What are those brands going to do to speak to her? And so there's going to be different channels, different language, different areas, and really understanding that's important. So we're going to show you an example of some personas. So what we do is we really kind of look at it from an objective viewpoint, and we kind of put a face and a name to it. We like to kind of pull characteristics from that core person and identify those the things that matter for that person. So for example, this is Lindsay. Lindsay does a significant amount of research, both online and through word of mouth, before she makes a purchase. So we know that we need to make sure that her friends also know about our organization or our business. She's in the market to update her home office because she's working from home. She's on a budget, but willing to spend a little bit more for quality items. And she likes the ease of ordering online, but values good customer service. And so I have to say, Lindsay very much speaks to me personally, just because I'm in that zone right now. But, it's really understanding, all right, for Lindsay, what are the things that we need to do? We need to make sure that the key messaging we're putting out there is is about value and about service and convenience, something that's going to give her some relief when she's working from home, make her life a little easier. So what does that look like from a business perspective? And how do I share that message? If I was an organization or a business that can help her in that, how would I get to her and what channels would I use? And I know Lisa will go into a little more when it's specific on channels there. So we're gonna go into the Q4 marketing campaign. So those are kind of the fundamentals, and I'll give this to Lisa to go over the steps in creating that Q4 campaign.
Great. Thanks, Ash. Yeah, as you've looked at some of these foundational pieces of information and you're aware of the challenges in the market, then you're ready to create a campaign, whether it's quarter 4 or any other type. And so some of the things we want to look at are goals and objectives. Mary, you can go to the next slide for me. Thanks. So we want to create a campaign. Now, in our terminology, goals is the big single goal you might have, and objectives, I sometimes call them tactics. Those are the individual techniques or channels perhaps, or as Ashley mentioned, maybe for your business, you have 2, 3, or 4 personas. So those objectives would be different ways to reach your goals. When you're creating a campaign, make the goal the top and most important thing. So what might your goals be? It might be to increase sales. It might be to educate the public about how you're surviving during COVID. It might be web traffic. It might be, it could be a lot of different things. And you always want to make sure that you identify that up front at the very beginning. And then you also want to have a good idea of which metrics are we going to use. So we're going to use profit that we made in quarter 4? Are we going to use traffic to the website, social engagement? There's a variety of different kinds of metrics you can use. So pick the one that best shows that you've reached your goal. The next thing we want to have in a campaign is a call to action. We'll oftentimes have clients that'll come to us and they'll say, well, we ran the campaign, but it didn't perform really very well. And it's because we didn't have a strong call to action. We didn't tell that user what we wanted them to do. Now, when you're in a specific campaign for a promotion or a certain time of year, anytime you can create a little bit of urgency. If I see an ad and it just says, buy this great desk for your home office, I'll put it in the back of my mind and I won't think about it again. But if it says, hurry, buy it today, or a special sale, or you still have time to get it home before the holidays, those are little words that can create urgency, and it can tell me, come in, go to my website, tell a consumer what you want them to do. Messaging is really important. We were talking earlier amongst ourselves about how much we all love words, and words are great, but boy, when it comes to campaign messaging, it's going to break your heart, but you want to be concise and specific. As Mary mentioned, everyone's used to seeing messaging that goes right to them, that's convenient for them, and talks to them. So try to keep it clear and concise and short whenever you can. And then, of course, you're going to have a website or maybe a phone number. There's other ways that can get more information, and trust that if they have questions, they'll get more information. And then finally, we always say a picture is worth 1,000 words, and that's true, whether it's a still image or it's moving pictures in a video. Use imagery to storytell about your brand. It's so important. Try to convey emotion whenever possible. So if you have a company that reaches out to parents with small kids, it's one thing to say, hey, we make your life easier when you have small kids. It's something else to have a really touching picture of parents with their toddler and, you know, that really tugging on your heartstrings. Those things work. So if you can find imagery that conveys emotion and makes people feel engaged with your message, it will just help that much more. Now, the next thing we're going to talk about is how the heck do you reach your audience? This is a very scaled down discussion. People in my office tease me because I'm so passionate about channels to reach your audience, and that's kind of what I get to do. I could talk about it for a long time. So we're going to give you a very quick overview, different ways to reach your audience. Advertising is probably the single most obvious one that most of us know about. In my mind, and Mary mentioned this introducing it, going from traditional to digital. So I think of traditional advertising as television, radio, print, whether that's newspaper or magazines, and then some of the billboards that you see outside. And then digital advertising is everything else that you can see on a phone, a computer, or your TV screen. Now, if you're looking to design a fourth quarter campaign, it becomes a little bit more challenging. Traditional advertising makes those outlets make most of their money in fourth quarter. And then when you look at a year like 2020, you've got a political season on top of that. And gosh, you've got COVID on top of that, and they've got holiday advertising. So those prices are going to be significantly higher than they would be any other time of the year, or actually any other year as well. So look at those carefully and see if advertising in those channels makes sense for you. And this goes back again to personas. Ashley's tired of this. She's heard me do it for so many years, but Ashley's my poster child for a young working mother with young kids. She's busy, she's working hard, she's answering everything. And we want to talk to her digitally because maybe the only time she's going to see my message is at 10 o'clock at night when the kids are finally asleep. If you talk to someone my age, my kids are older, they've already moved out, I have a little bit more time, I will consume traditional television and digital and a larger variety of different kinds of platforms. So match the platform you're going to use with those target personas you've created to be most effective. Now, when you're not sure, what we usually recommend is starting with digital. The thing that we love about digital is that it targets people based on their interests, their behaviors, their lifestyle, and then we can add in specific geography as well. We can add in income, we can add in a lot of things. So again, if we go back to my example of you want to talk to parents that have kids in elementary school, the great way to use digital advertising is you won't necessarily have to pay to talk to Mary or I because our kids are a little bit older, but boy, you definitely want to talk to Ashley. So that's what digital advertising does so effectively. It's a very big umbrella term. It can mean a million things. So it might be video that you're putting out that someone might see before or after they're looking at content on a site that they really like. It might be display ads that are more animated, just imagery. It might be social media, which we're going to talk a little bit more about, and whether that's just ads on social media or posting on social media. It also includes this new hybrid group of streaming television. So a lot of us have Hulu and Netflix and all of those places, or we see a big move with consumers. A lot of people will have the ESPN app and they'll watch it on their TV, but they've cut the cord and they're no longer watching regular cable or satellite TV. And then finally, there's a whole bunch of platforms that are streaming music. So Pandora and Spotify and iHeart and Apple Music. Those are all places that we can also place ads to reach the right consumer. Again, matching it perfectly with that person's behavior and lifestyle. Now, if you're not sure about how to go about this, there's a lot of different groups out there. Almost all of the traditional advertising platforms offer digital packages. So if you have any relationship with any of those vendors, you can reach out to them. If not, you can always reach out to Mary, and she can give a little bit of direction on some of the vendors that you might work with if you're trying to figure out how to place this. Social media is a big one. Boy, 2, 3, 4, 5 years ago, we would say start with social media. It's clean, it's easy, you can do it yourself, and it's very, it gives you a great return on your investment. You might have noticed in the news recently that Facebook and Instagram are on the news all the time, and they're very much embroiled in our news and political advertising and a lot of hot topics. So remember, social media can mean Facebook and Instagram, the two biggies, and Twitter, and there's LinkedIn, there's Pinterest, there's TikTok, there's a whole bunch of other ones as well. For this conversation, we're going to talk specifically about Facebook and Instagram. They're experiencing a lot of clutter. There's a lot of political ads on Facebook and Instagram right now. There's holiday ads, and then there's social issue ads. You'll also notice, because we're in a political window that will occur all the way up until right after the election, Facebook and Instagram are using different kinds of rules. So they're rejecting your ability to either put posts out or pay to boost those posts or create ads to reach your market. Here's an example. We work with Slow Food Bank, and Slow Food Bank is committed to helping reduce hunger in SLO County. But because of the new changes in Facebook and Instagram, a lot of our posts are getting rejected because Facebook, which you can never really reach a person at Facebook to talk to them about this, but Facebook thinks that there's a potential for Slow Food Bank to be trying to influencing people to vote in a certain way. So if you want to participate on the social media platforms, look at your business and see if that makes sense. A lot of you have large followings and you want to communicate with those people. We talked about Old Wands using that so effectively. Don't be afraid to do it, but make sure your content is very clear and specific. And up until the election's over, avoid using any messaging that sounds political or like you're trying to influence people to take a social action. And then it's likely that you won't get any rejections, and all of your ads and your content should run pretty well. Please feel free to jump in with any questions too if you have them at this time, because I know we're covering a lot of it really quickly. And then, I jumped around. I apologize. I forgot to mention email marketing. Email marketing is so effective. As the little quick quiz we took shows us, it works. Think of email marketing as your lifeline to talk to your current and past customers. They care about how you're doing. They want to know how you're managing through COVID. They want to know all the things you have planned for them. So use that to build that relationship. Even if they don't respond right away, they're thinking about you and they're still part of the family. So use that whenever possible. And then finally, public relations. Public relations lives a little bit in its own zone, just because public relations depends on other outlets to execute something. So clients will say to us, well, I had this big sale and I sent out press releases and nobody picked it up. Public relations works when it's something that's newsworthy to the community. So just having a great sale isn't really going to do it. Now, if all the proceeds of that great sale go to a great local nonprofit, now that's a little bit more newsworthy. So try to design something that's got a lot of public interest in it. Think of public relations as just one spoke of the wheel to your entire marketing campaign, so you don't rely solely on it. And then remember, the tricky part about public relations is you might create a campaign. You have a special event, it's going to be great. The TV stations are going to come and the newspaper is going to come cover it. And then boom, we have a huge news breaking day and all of that gets passed on and you get no coverage. So it's very much contingent on what's happening in the world, how busy those outlets are that normally cover public relations. And even if you have a great campaign, it's not always going to reach through on those channels. So think of it just as one in a bigger scope of all of the platforms you might use to reach your audience.
All right, well, thanks, Lisa. I'll wrap it up here with, we talked about the fundamentals. We talked about what makes you special, really understanding and defining that, knowing your audience, how you're going to speak to that audience, putting your plan together, getting your visuals and your channels in place. Now what? How are you going to do it? And really, this is all about the implementation and really taking a deep look into what can your organization commit to? What do you have the capacity and resources to do? And focus in on that and do it well. So what we find is creating a calendar keeps us really organized and on track. It could be a Q4 calendar, it could be month by month. And really in that calendar, it's an identification of all the different tactics, whether it's here's what I'm going to be doing in social media. I might run a contest in October. I might do some giveaway package in November and something special, in December as some type of nonprofit support, effort. Lots of different ways, but calendaring it out is key. It keeps us on track and keeps everything organized. the next step is really monitoring. So you've got your plan, you're implementing your plan. Now you got to monitor and make adjustments. If you're finding that something's working really well and you want to pull more resources to that effort, do that. If you want to scale back somewhere that maybe is not getting the traction you envisioned, do that. Making those adjustments to get to that ultimate goal is very important. And then lastly, it's all about key learnings. We always like to have, a campaign, whether it's a quarterly campaign or an annual campaign, and really look at the metrics. What did we identify as the data we're going to look to determine if this campaign was successful? What did we learn, and how do we apply that for future campaigns? And that's really just the secret sauce of making sure that you have the most effective and efficient campaign the next time around. And it's okay to test things out and try things. That's what marketing's all about, is trying things, learning, and really making those adjustments to be the best you can be within that marketing space. So we encourage you to do that as you're implementing your plan. And if you see anything that is just out of this world working, look to that and really continue focusing on that effort to really get to your ultimate goal. And then lastly, we just wanted to remind you guys that we are sharing this really great worksheet we put together. It's a nice, easy snapshot. It's a way to just organize what you're wanting to do for the quarter. It has those key points that we discussed today. Really identifying your points of differentiation, your audience, what are those personas, what does that look like, and then really what's your goal and objective. And this just, again, it's a really easy worksheet that helps keep what your goal is organized and all the different tactics that you're going to deploy in one spot. So it's a nice tool to use as you're creating that plan.
So our next, sorry, did you have something else, Ash?
Nope, that's all. Thanks.
The next section just goes to questions, but I might leave it on this slide in case there are any questions specifically about how to use this form or what any of these things mean, or just make sure that everything is clear to everybody. So I will, Barbara, ask you if there are any questions that we could address.
Yes, one person wants a copy of the brand map. Is that possible?
Yeah, I guess that's possible. It's not something we typically, it's proprietary. It's not something we typically share, but we do have it on this presentation. So I'm actually fine with that.
Okay, so either you can send it directly, I will give you the list, or I can send it for you, whatever you prefer.
Okay, yeah, if you want to send me the list, I'm happy to do that.
Okay. Does anyone else have any questions? It's a quiet group today. I know you guys have questions. Somebody wants the PDF. The PDF is problematic. For some reason it won't load, so I'm going to send that to you in an email.
Okay, well, good. So I'm glad it's showing on the screen then. So it's basically, it follows along with the presentation we did today. So foundations of effective marketing, really looking at, it's important to see the big picture. And we're talking specifically about fourth quarter, but this is a great time to get that underway and then start looking at 2021 and putting kind of the big picture, like Ashley had mentioned. We're going to have this ongoing campaign, but then we're going to have Q1, Q2, certain things based on seasonality of your businesses. So, identifying your top competitors, it's really important to know who offers what you offer and why are they going to come to your store or hire you instead of somebody else. And you need to be able to tell people why you're different and why they should care and call you. The points of differentiation kind of follows along in that, just showing them how you're positioned against your competitors. Bring emotion into your marketing, as I think all three of us mentioned, just that idea that people make decisions based on emotion and they don't want to hear a list of features. They want to hear how you're going to change their life. And you could see when Lisa was talking about, a mom with 2 elementary school kids, and how are they going to make your life easier? And then Ashley smiled when she said that, because Ashley's like, yes, make my life easier because I'm now a teacher too. So all of these things that are happening. So, just bringing that emotion and connecting with people. And then the prioritizing key audiences. So this is where we do talk about target audience. So you might, in those 3 areas, and you might have more than 3, but you likely have at least 3. You might have, maybe your target audience number 1 is Lindsay, who we showed you earlier. So it's a, millennial mom with young kids who is setting up her home office kind of a person. And maybe the second one is a retired couple. I mean, they can be really different demographically. And then maybe the third one is a person who recently graduated from college. So it can be really different people. And then when you go into these personas, that's when you wrap more detail around that person, so that when you're crafting messages, you can literally, I mean, when we're working on like social media content, we will look at the persona of who we're writing to. It's like, okay, Lindsay this is what she cares about. She has young kids. Here's what she's, setting up her home office. We think about all of that when we fill out these persona questions. And then the goals and objectives, obviously, at the end of the day, you're trying to increase business, right? But being really specific with that. So if it's, maybe in this year with things being so uncertain, maybe your goal is to have equal sales as you had Q4 last year. Or maybe it's an increase. But having specific, we want a 10% increase over sales for fourth quarter 2019. And then the objectives might be, create an advertising campaign that will run from Black Friday through December 14th, just being really specific. And then within that, you'll have lots of activities to help you execute that. But the objectives and the goal, those are things you really want to be able to measure. So you want to be able to look at those and say, okay, it's December 31st. How did we do? Did we make the goal? No, we didn't. Okay, well, how did we do on these objectives? Did we make those objectives? Or even if you made the goal, how did we do on the objectives? Did we blow them out of the water? Did we do really well on some and not others? So it's good because it does then inform you for your next foray into your next campaign. And then the call to action, obviously people want to know, okay, I see this great content. What am I supposed to do now? So being really clear about that. And then bringing in the messages and visuals that really show who you are, that are authentic, that people will engage with, that persona will relate to specifically. So Ashley and Lisa, do either of you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, I noticed I had the questions, the chats up, and there was just a couple that I was going to answer really quickly. One question was, can you talk about budgets and manpower to do effective digital marketing? There's lots of people that can help you. The great part about digital is it will take less of your budget than if you were using traditional. So one of the reasons why digital advertising is so attractive, it might take me $2,500 per month per every radio station to reach the community, where that $2,500 might create one county-wide digital campaign. So there's lots of places you could go to and lots of people that will help you. So you can choose how hands-on you want to be or how much you want to get other people to help you with it. So it kind of depends on your requirements. Carol mentioned she gets her Facebook and Instagram ads rejected all the time. Carol, this is why my hair is turning gray, because yes, it's a big problem. And what we do at our office is we reward it to take any guesses that we have about buzzwords that might be clicking it off. And then sometimes there's some targeting you have in there. So it's hard and it's confusing. And I think it might just be a wait and see. So hopefully this is going to improve after the election, but we're just not sure. So some of us are going to other channels because it is a big problem. Chuck asked, how high should Q4 be compared to others? This completely depends on the nature of your business. So if you're a nonprofit, you might want to do a giving campaign in fourth quarter. If you're a service business, maybe you do income tax returns for people. Don't even put your money in fourth quarter. I'd go into first quarter, where as soon as that new year kicks in, everybody cares about, oh my goodness, I have to file my income taxes. So look at don't think of it like how much money should I spend each quarter, but look at the behaviors and the lifestyles of your core customers. If your customers need you the most in fourth quarter, then try to be there in front of them. But if they don't need you that much, and maybe they're going to be looking at you, maybe you have sporting goods that is real big summer activity. So don't feel obligated to be involved in quarter four if it doesn't match the goals of your business. Mary, you might want to answer the question on marketing to a national level, like Good Morning America or the Today Show, how you create PR outreach to them.
That is a really great question. So we've had clients before come to us and say, hey, I have this really awesome story idea, and I'd really like the New York Times to do a story on it. And sometimes you can get lucky and you send something out and it happens to hit the right person at the right time. But typically for that type of coverage, you really have to have kind of a drip campaign. It's something that you have to know who those reporters are, who you're talking to. You have to understand what they cover. So if for example, say I was looking at promoting, Jack's Helping Hand is a client of ours, and we have gotten national coverage for them. And so I might be looking at, gosh, if we want to get a story on Good Morning America, what reporter specifically covers children's issues or issues about special needs or organizations that help families? I would look for all of these different areas that Jack's Helping Hand fits into. And then I would do my research to find out who the right people are, who's the producer of that, who's a reporter, who's somebody who maybe has a personal connection to that issue that is associated with that media outlet. And then you just have to send them information, and it's typically lots of different ideas over a period of time, because first of all, they're working way ahead. You don't know, they might be looking at, in February, we want to do something about whatever. And if they see something that fits that, so, some of it's serendipity to some extent, and some of it is just really understanding who you're talking to and making sure you're giving them relevant information. And it's usually not likely that you're going to send one great idea and it's going to get picked up and they're just going to run with it. Another way to do it, depending on, again, what that story is, if you can get local coverage, say you can get KSBY to cover something. Well, KSBY is an NBC affiliate. So if you can get them to cover something, sometimes there might be a way to leverage that to get more regional and then grow from there and maybe eventually to national coverage. In fact, it's interesting, and probably many of you know Brian Idler, and that he was on Wheel of Fortune. And he had a little incident happened where the person whose turn it was answered the question incorrectly, but it was just a technical thing. And then, so Pat Sajak said, no, you didn't win. Brian, what do you think the answer is? And he's like, he said what the answer was, and he didn't add an extra word like the other person did. And so he won. And he was like, they really had the answer. I just said it correctly. And so he actually gave his winnings to that person. Well, that obviously was covered locally by KSBY, but it did hit some national coverage because KSBY said, wow, look at this cool story that came out of our market. Check it out. So sometimes you can leverage those more local connections.
I was also going to mention, Charlene asked us about how do they compete with the holiday marketing and supply chains, and how can small business leverage what they do that is better than the big guys? And that's exactly why we designed this handout for you, is particularly in this community, people really care about local. All things being the same, they're going to try to invest locally. So the fact that you've been in this community for so long and know the likes and the dislikes and the pain points and the positives, this is a tremendous benefit. And so all of your messaging can talk about how you're special and you understand the local community and you know what they need. because it's challenging. Sometimes the big, particularly like big box stores and retail establishments, you know, it's fast, it's quick, it's easy, but you have heart. Local people have been here for a long time and they care about the community. So leveraging that person-to-person contact, they can come in the store, you're going to help them, things like that can really prove very effective.
I was just going to add to personalized service. I mean, things people want that type of experience when they're looking for holiday shopping. And so if there's any ways that you can, as a business, provide them something special when it comes to that service that they're getting with your business, that alone makes somebody feel good. And when you feel good, you want to continue to support that business. Mm-hmm. And then again, like Lisa said, on the local side, what's the importance of local? Share that message. When you come and you support my local business, that provides local jobs, that provides local revenue. This is staying within our community. You are helping your community. And so I think those messages and those core, like we said, differentiators, especially around the service, we see that doesn't match those big boxes as much as, other campaigns and messaging. So those are kind of some strong pieces to look at.
Yeah, just kind of tagging on to I had mentioned Idlers before, and we have a really weird sized space for a refrigerator, and we needed a new refrigerator. And so I'm doing all this shopping online and comparing prices, and Idlers will match the price. And then ultimately I was like, you know what, if something happens where this refrigerator is delivered and somehow it doesn't work right with this weird space we have, I know Mr. Idler. I don't know Mr. Best Buy. Mm-hmm. And it's going to be a big pain in the butt for me to deal with it if it doesn't work. And so I think that that's a message that any local business can carry, that, you know what, we're going to be here. We're here tomorrow too, not just today when you want to make that sale.
Yeah. And I also wanted to just really quickly respond. Gail said, she was talking about life coaches, and she was saying most of them are national and well-funded. I'm local. How do I basically compete against them? It's a little bit more challenging now. A year ago, I would have said, one of the things you can do is you can get out and meet local people. You can go to a chamber event. You can go to a networking event. Now you have to do some of that through Zoom in some different ways. But creating that personal contact, maybe you can offer your services on a trial basis. So there's different kinds of things when you're on a smaller scale that you can do to create customer service. Use testimonials for the people you've already worked with, and then that reflects out to the people they know. And so you just have to be a little bit more creative about, how do I build my base in my community, and how do I create personal connections and grow that circle out.
Are there any other questions showing on there in the chat?
There was one, the last one there from Mary, about promotions or ideas on Small Business Saturday. Things that we see work too is little special promotions. So you might have every Small Business Saturday, you're going to feature a different product you sell, or a different service you offer, or something special that your followers or fans can only get if they're connected to you. Or maybe it's through your email marketing. Things like that, where people are like, wow, I feel like I'm connected to this business. I feel like I'm a part of it. There's something special about that. And so little ideas like that can go a long way. Other little details for services that you offer. I know that there are some businesses in retail, for example, that are offering your shopper, they're your personal shopper. So you can just say, this is what I'm thinking, here's what I'm wanting. That type of service is, it's something that we've had to do with the world today that we're in, but it is something unique. It's different, and it's something that's giving attention. So what I would just really focus in on, what can your business, what promotions or ideas can you craft that are unique and special to your consumer, and really pump those up, whether it's in social, your email, website, whatever that looks like as far as your channels, and provide that to make sure that your customers know about it.
Yeah, I would say too, customers, clients, they love to be asked their opinion about things. So, if you have an email list database where you can send out a survey, just a quick, 3-question survey, and just find out what do they appreciate about you? Why do they keep coming to you? What would they like to see? Because sometimes you'll get some really great information. It can do one of two things. It can confirm you're on the right track, good, I'm doing things that they appreciate and they want, or it can give you something new that you hadn't even thought about, because sometimes it's really hard to step outside your own brain and see it as a consumer. It's like, what if I was this person coming to my marketing firm, what would I want? What would the client want? So doing that kind of thing is a great way to get information. Plus, it just lets them know you care and you want to know how they feel and that they're important to you. So are there any other questions showing, or should we wrap up?
We did have one person who wanted some contact information.
Okay, well it will be my last slide. So let me first just show you the resources. These first two are free resources. The American Marketing Association does have a lot of different content. They have a great e-newsletter that goes out, and you can choose if you want it, daily, weekly, monthly, that has a variety of topics that could be really great. The Small Business Administration, the SBA through the government, they do have a lot of resources as well. And this was one I found specifically on marketing and talking about, different ways to attract customers. And then the last one is not free, but they do have a free trial if you wanted to check it out. LinkedIn Learning actually used to be lynda.com. Many of you are probably familiar with Lynda. They were based in Santa Barbara, and any topic in the world. I mean, how do I fix my car? And you could look on Lynda and it would tell you, how do I design an ad in InDesign? And you could look on Lynda and it'll tell you. They really have a large variety of topics, and now LinkedIn owns them. And so there's really great resources in there as well. So I encourage you to check those out. And then that is our web address is verdantmarketing.com, and then my email is just mary@verdantmarketing.com. So if you have questions or there's any follow-up that you would like, you can just reach out to me.
All right, thank you so much, Mary, and Ashley, and Lisa. Just really fascinating, great information, and great actual action items, which is really nice. So for those of you who would like to get in touch with MCSC for a no-cost one-on-one consultation, you can do that with the link that I put in the chat box. Also, I wanted to let you know what we have coming up. On 10/16, we have Adversity to Opportunity, Growing Your Business Now. That's on Friday from 12 to 1. And then on the 21st, we have Human Resources, Basics for Small Businesses, and that's going to be about handbooks. That's from 12 to 1 on the 21st. And then on the 11th, we have Google Drive Basics in Spanish. So if you are interested in any of those, please visit our website and register. We look forward to seeing you all. Thank you all so much for joining, and thank you, Verdant Marketing, once again for presenting. Have a great day, everyone.